guys, it's Stephanie with Simarchy, and welcome to the Sims 4 speed build of the Forget-Me-Not Flower Shop. Now, this is actually a collab with my friend MsGryphi, and there were a couple of rules that we laid down. Basically, we were just building a tiny home lot, so there had to be 2 tiny homes, and tiny home we defined as 10 by 10 or smaller, doesn't matter how many floors there are. And the second part was it needed to have a flower shop, some sort of garden shop or flower shop. I actually took that, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do when I first started, but we did also say it was supposed to be pastel, and I kind of forgot that part, so not all of it is pastel, but I mean technically kind of the outside of the house is, so I guess it's okay, but it's a little bit more dark once we get inside. Instead of doing something kind of fun and modern, I don't even remember what the inspiration for this was, but I just decided to go kind of older and creepier and kind of, what's the word that I'm thinking of? I don't know, just more desolate. I guess that sounds horrible. I don't know. Victorian. Let's just go with Victorian. I decided to go with more Victorian type vibe, but it does come out pretty cool. Once I started building this though, I really got into it. Normally it takes me a while to get into a build, and I'll do a little bit and then stop and come back to it. But this one I just sat down and pumped it out. It took me 2 hours, which is actually on the smaller side of my builds. Usually they're like 4 to 6 hours, so I'm really proud of myself. And I definitely have been talking about wanting to play more with landscaping and making sure I build up my skills in that area. I still don't think I am good at landscaping, but I'm trying. But I'm very happy with the way that this little tiny home lot community thing came out. I don't even know what to call it. I mean, I guess the official title is the Forget-Me-Not Flower Shop, but it is also technically a little tiny living community. I guess they can't really eat here, but they can live here and they could turn the forgotten flower shop into an actual functioning flower shop and earn money as well. And you can actually fit 3 different Sims families in here, because this first structure that you're looking at right now, the main floor is a flower shop, but the upstairs and the basement combine equal 1 house, and then there's 2 more houses on the property, and all 3 of them are full functioning homes with everything you need to survive: your bed, your kitchen, your bathroom, etc. So you can fit quite a few Sims. I think I used double beds in all the builds too, so technically 2, 4, 6, technically 6 Sims can live here. It's pretty spacious for being such a tiny build, and I think it's on a 20 by 30 lot, so again, a pretty small lot as well, and half of it's landscaping. So again, I'm really proud of this one. I hope you guys end up liking it. But this sort of like pink pastel home I thought looked so cute. I don't know, I used to not be a real big fan of the color pink, but when I got my hair dyed rainbow a few years ago, like actual full 9-color rainbow, pink was the one that kind of stuck in my hair the most, and it's the one that my hairstylist suggested we put towards the front of my face, even though I was like, no, that's going to look horrible. And believe it or not, I ended up liking the pink. Not just liking it, but loving it. So that's kind of my go-to color now in between the rainbow, because it's hard to keep up. And I usually dye it a really hot pink, but it ends up fading to this beautiful pastel color. So now I'm a big fan of pink. I used to not be. I used to really just not be I don't know, like I said, a huge fan of the color, but it's grown on me and it's literally on my hair. So it's one of my favorite colors now, I guess I should say. So maybe that was the inspiration for this house too. We'll just go ahead and say that. And I was really playing with this terrain paint to kind of make it look very old and worn down. I love that you could change the intensity of it. Being able to just pull that slider and make it really dark or really light is awesome. It's really awesome. I wish we had that feature in cast for the makeup as well, like we did in Sims 3, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. And another trick I've just recently sort of picked up is using the dirt as well, along with the terrain paints, just to make them look more natural and more like it's part of the ground and not just sitting on top of the ground. So this first tiny house here, I guess it's technically the second tiny house, is a lot smaller than I expected. I planned on making them all at least 2 stories, but there was literally nowhere to put a staircase. I really tried. So that ended up being just a 1-story home, even though it looks like a 2-story home from the outside. And then the second one is definitely 2 stories. So actually, that works out kind of good. We have a 1-story tiny home, a 2-story tiny home, and a 3-story tiny home. And these orange blossom, or not orange blossom, what am I saying? Cherry blossom trees are so beautiful. I don't know why I don't use them more often. They're gorgeous. I actually have a tree kind of like that in my front yard at my apartment, and it just makes me happy. Again, pink is like one of my favorite colors now, so I really, really love those. And I wanted to get a little bit more experimental with the roofing, but it was kind of hard because they are so small. But I wanted all 3 roofs to look completely different, kind of like these houses were built here over time, not all at the same time, just maybe as the family grew or as the business grew, they added more structures to the property. And just in case I didn't make it clear, the flower shop is non-functioning in this build. There are still flowers inside, so maybe the people that live here still keep up the appearance that it's a flower shop, but it is definitely run down and old, and there are no customers. Like maybe there might be a couple customers here and there, but it's definitely a forgotten flower shop. So at one time, it was booming and thriving, and they were able to keep growing and expanding their family and expanding their property. But now it is forgotten, even though people still live here, or Sims still live here. I don't know. Is it weird that I call Sims people sometimes? I mean, technically, they're people simulations, but I know some people get picky about that and go, they're Sims, they're not people. So I will try to call them Sims, but hey, I can say people too, right? I do what I want. Oh, and I really love this ivy that came with the vampire pack. It's just really cool to be able to add those to houses. I think we kind of had 1 or 2 things that you could use before the vampire pack came out, but now we definitely have a lot more, and they're one of my favorite things to use. I don't completely think it looks amazing on the outside of these homes, but this was my first time really experimenting with it in this much detail, so hopefully I will get better at that as time goes on. And of course, since this was, or I guess technically is, a flower shop, we have to have lots of pretty flowers all over the property because that just makes sense. And I did make sure to include lots of plants and greenery inside of the tiny homes as well. So here I'm just kind of testing the angles because as I'm building, it's actually a really tough angle to build at. That's why my camera's going crazy and moving all over the place. But it's because I was trying to get into like the grooves between the houses, and really that can only be done through a topical view, like an aerial view of the property. So what you saw me there doing was just taking the camera view and going through it at sim eye level to make sure that everything looked good from that angle as well. So now we're actually working on the first building's interior, and I definitely kept it all stone in here as well. This is where I'm trying to place the staircase. It just didn't really fit anywhere perfectly, so I thought I would kind of put it behind the counter so it's still technically hidden from the customers, but it's obviously there. And I was trying to play around with that wall sign to make it look like a flower, but once I started overlapping them on top of each other, it got a really weird glitch, so I decided to just I still wanted to use them, but not really make them shaped like a flower, just sort of make a pretty design with them. And now I'm using this really cool table. I think it's technically a dining table, but I thought it would be perfect to use as a flower display, as well as some pedestals that I end up finding that I don't know, I had a hard time finding them, and I think it's because I spelled it wrong, but I eventually find them, so I use these little columns. I wanted it to look, like I said, old and forgotten, but I didn't want it to look a whole lot like ancient ruins, which some of the items I was looking at definitely gave off that vibe, so I tried to steer clear of those and just make it look more Victorian. We actually do have a lot of different plant options. I'm surprised how many there are. I tend to use the same ones over and over again when I build, so being able to go through and actually look at every single one and discover a few new ones that I didn't notice before was pretty cool. Although I do wish we had a few more of the hanging plants. I think we have the one that you just saw me put on the wall, and I think we also have 2 that kind of go flat against the wall, but I really wish we had a lot more of the hanging baskets that come down from the ceiling. Those would be really fun to play with and upsize and make cool different objects and decorations out of them. So hopefully that's something that we get more of in the future. But yeah, these are the other wall ones. And I also didn't know you could change those flower colors. That did go kind of fast, but there was a bunch of different flower colors that you could use. And I decided to go back through the outside and place some more, even more flowers on the windows because that's just appropriate for this build, right? It's just perfect. I got to play with the landscaping and play with the flowers just like I've been wanting to do. And oh, those, yeah. I used the flower boxes from the outside on the inside, which I think turned out pretty cute as well. And those were clipping into the top floor, so I had to move them down a bit. And when I first started building this top floor, I initially planned on making it all just the living area and everything, the living area, the bathroom, the kitchen, and the bedroom. But I guess I forgot about it for a second and just continued building the bedroom and bathroom part. So then that's when I decided to go ahead and expand down to the basement and put the living room and kitchen in the actual basement portion, which is kind of weird because you have to if you have to go get something to eat or if you want to go down to the living room to relax, you have to go through the flower shop and then all the way down. But that's okay. I think it adds character to the build, and I love builds that have character. They're my favorite. All right, now I'm looking for some paintings to go on the wall, and I knew there was some really cool ones from the vampire pack, but again, I wanted it to look, I don't know, I didn't want it to look like it was a vampire's house, although I do end up replacing the house in Forgotten Hollow to do the tour and the screenshots. When I originally built it, I think I was in Newcrest, and being able to see all the big high-rise buildings in the background just made it look like it was completely out of place, like it didn't even belong in this world. So I made sure to actually go ahead and put it in Forgotten Hollow for the tour and the screenshots, which actually worked out pretty nicely. It worked out really well there. And if you wanted to use this home for a Let's Play or something, I just thought of a really cool idea. You could actually keep this in Forgotten Hollow and say that once Forgotten Hollow was, a booming town with all humans and very thriving, and one day vampires started invading the town, and that's kind of what drove most of the humans away. But the people that owned this flower shop decided to still stay in town even though they lost most of their business and all of their money. They weren't just gonna leave town and forget about everything that they had built. So they decided to remain, even though they're humans, in the dominantly vampire town and just never let go of their home and their belongings. So that's a really cool storyline. Actually, I was gonna say maybe if I do a season 2 of My Vampires Let's Play, maybe I can add a family to the town, but then it'd be weird to add them in a series that's already taking place. But I don't know, if you guys want to use that idea or use this house, I think that would be cool. I think it'd be fun. I usually don't come up with stories for my homes, but that just popped in my head and I thought that sounded really nice. So I hope you guys like that idea. It's cool. It's a cool concept. I mean, can you imagine? I know vampires aren't real. Well, actually, I don't want to get too much into it, but vampires are real. They're real. I know people say they aren't, but I know people that are vampires, and I won't get too much into that for fear of my safety, but but can you imagine if your whole town was overrun by vampires and you had your business there and your family and your life, and what would you do? Would you just get scared and leave town, or would you be like this family and decide to stay here no matter what and just rough it through even though your business is failing? Would you still just live on the property because it's yours and you built it and you don't want to leave? Or would you be like me and run out of town? Or actually, that's the third option. Would you embrace the vampires and ask to be turned to one? That would be kind of cool too. Maybe vampires do live here now. Vampires that were human for their entire lives, and then towards the end of their life, they decided, you know what? If you can't beat them, join them. I don't know, that's something kind of fun to think about. I think when the vampire pack came out, a lot of people were talking about that concept, and personally, I don't want to be a vampire. First of all, I don't like blood, so number one, that would be horrible. I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to be like the Sims vampires and drink plasma from a plasma tree, but number one, I don't like blood, and number two, I do not want to live forever. That sounds horrible. That sounds absolutely horrible. I want to just, die peacefully once I decide, well, not once I decide because I don't have control over that, but, once I feel like my life is complete. I'd like to just die peacefully and not have to live on forever. Especially, oh my gosh, can you imagine if you hated your life and you were a vampire and you couldn't change it and you just had to live forever? Oh, oh. I actually was thinking about this the other day. I was trying to decide what my biggest fear was, and I kind of half jokingly say I'm scared of aliens and clowns. And I say half joking because I'm not like super, super afraid of clowns. I do find them creepy, but there's some that I can tolerate, like from the band Insane Clown Posse. For some reason, those clowns don't scare me. But aliens do. Aliens scare the living daylight out of me. I think they're real, and if I ever saw one, I would just fall over and die. But besides that, I was thinking my actual real fear in life would be to be helpless. Doesn't that sound like scary and horrible, to be absolutely helpless and not be able to change your situation? Oh gosh. That's my biggest fear. But anyways, this is getting kind of deep. Don't forget to also check out MsGryphi's version of the flower shop. I don't think hers is as dark and old as mine. I think hers might be a little bit more modern, but I will make sure to link the video below so you can go see her interpretation of a flower shop and 2 tiny homes on the same lot, and definitely check out her other builds and videos while you're there. She is really awesome. She also does live streaming, which is really fun. Yeah, I really like her. I like her channel, so go check her out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye! Wait guys, before you go anywhere, make sure to click over here to subscribe and click down here to watch some more videos. See you next time.